This is Darren Hunter from darrenhunter.com. This audio CD, 20 property management fees charged across Australia, represents years and years of our research in working with officers right across Australia. This live session was recorded at the Leading Property Managers of Australia annual forum. And for more information on membership, to access Australia's largest property management knowledge database, and also for multimedia training resources, please visit lpma.com.au. All the best.
Thanks, Bob. Fees. I love fees. Staying with Robert recently in Atlanta, Georgia, and then flying down to see Todd, staying with him and working in his office. Those guys over there really know how to do fees. I know that you've got a brochure you've put out, Robert, with 100 things to charge landlords and tenants. Because you've got to understand, in the US, they charge tenants as many fees as what you would do here charging landlords. So they double dip there for sure and do very well profitably. But a very good comment that was made this morning, and Todd made that comment, and yes, we did do some fee maximisation work very successfully in Todd's office, is that in this country, when it comes to property management, everyone's into growth. Everyone's into more roofs and front doors, more roofs and front doors. And that's the message that we hear, isn't it? Certainly all the time. If we ever put on a rent roll growth seminar, there's lots and lots of people that want to come along because they want to know how to grow. And the reason why they want to grow, aside from more leads to the sales department and certainly the value of the business, is they want to grow more profit. And you see, when it comes to rent roll growth, for every dollar that you earn through growing your rent roll, well, 80 cents of that, on average, we're looking at the average expense per property, 80 cents is going to be spent on salaries, car allowances, petrol, internet, rent. You with me? Is that 80 cents of that dollar is going to be used up. So you're doing it for 20 cents. The average net profit margin that we see out there, an average is 20 cents in the dollar. However, when it comes to adding on and increasing your income per property, you see your expense base is already in place. You've already paid for it. It's already there. So every dollar that you generate by increasing your income per property, you get to keep 100 cents in the dollar. 5 times more than rent roll growth. You're impacting your profit margin 5 times quicker. You see, if you've got a 20% profit margin, if we can then, with what I'm teaching you here, look at increasing your total income by another 15, 20%, if your average profit margin is at 20%, can you see how we've increased your profit margin 50, 75, 100% more? Do you understand the math there? It's very easy to double your profit margin or increase your profit margin by 50%. The other way, through traditional rent roll growth, you can go increase your rent roll again by another 50, 100% to get the very, very same result with all the issues that comes with it. So what I'm teaching you today is let's focus on increasing your income per property. I successfully, now in the last 2 to 3 years, really focusing on teaching agents how to increase their fees with their landlords without damaging their business. And I do find it quite ironic with this session that I'm teaching you that the agency that manages my rental property is in the room today. So maybe they'll be putting up my fees. Let's hope they implement. But anyway, let's just take a look now. What I find is that when we talk about this, and there's a couple of fears that automatically come into mind, and we'll address those, but one of the fears is, Darren, it's all good and well, you talking about putting fees up, but you don't know what it's like out there. You don't believe the amount of people that are asking discounts. Is that what you hear about? But at the front end, the way the client thinks, and I'm not going to talk too much about that, but the way the client thinks in the listing presentation arena, as opposed to 1 or 2 years down the track, their mentality there is completely different. 2 separate mindsets. What I do want to state is the people that we've helped increase their fees, they're getting it at the front end. It's a very, very key reason for that. And that after my years and years and years and years and years and years of studying, and why does this work? Why does this work? It goes against everyone's mindset, but why does it work? These things here. If you believe that you're worth it, so if you look at these new fees here, if you can believe, you know that you're worth it, because you've got to understand the word believe is actually a knowing. It's not wishful thinking. It's a knowing. If you know that you're worth it, if you believe that you're worth it, and then you know how to justify that fee if you're challenged, and how to defend yourself in a right, proper way with conviction and belief in your eyes, you get it. You just get it. But you've got to know you're worth it. You've got to start competing on service instead of competing on fee. All right, now here's another fear that we deal with, and that every time I talk about fee maximization, without question, 100%, I could put any dollar on this, everyone is scared of losing their clients. Everybody, bar none. And so I like to relate this fear. It is a perceived fear, but what I have found with having done it so many times is not actual reality. And the analogy I like to use is, I've been learning scuba diving recently. I'm now a certified scuba diver, and I did it certainly for my own bucket list, but also because Todd and I are heading up to Cairns on Sunday, and we're going to go on a dive boat for 3 days doing 14 dives. So this is really what I want to do with Todd. And so here's me out scuba diving 5 kilometres off Glenelg in South Australia. Who's familiar with the waters I'm talking about? And what automatically comes to mind when you think about swimming out there? Sharks. 5-metre white pointers. They are very tidy eaters. They don't leave much behind. Everyone's got that fear, but the thing is, on that particular dive boat, let alone all the other dive boats and everyone else that dives in South Australia, there's guys on there that had 300 or 400 dives, but never seen one. Never ever. It's a bit like flying. Everyone's scared of crashing, but how many crashes have we had with any major airline in Australia? Never. All right, so it is a perceived fear as opposed to actual reality. That's my point. But why? Why? Because when it comes to your clients being with you a year, 2 years down the track, having managed their property with you, they've forgotten about the sign-up process, they've forgotten about your competitors, they've forgotten about what their fees were 1 or 2 years down the track, and then they get something in the mail that you're putting up their fees. Why do they not leave? Some very key reasons why. With most clients, it's easier to stay. It's easier to stay put than to leave, than to actually move their business. And all the rigmarole and emotionally pulling up roots from your agency, disconnecting in the relationships to have with you and your staff, and to leave. It's much easier to pay a bit more than to leave. They would rather stay with who they know than go to someone that they don't. They'd rather the devil they know than the devil they don't. People don't like change. It's human nature is on your side here. They like to stay with what they know. They could be in a worse off situation if they go to another agent, and people fear that. What annoys them now soon becomes the norm. A bit like petrol prices. You might curse and swear that the petrol's gone up to $1.60, but in 5 months' time, what's happened? You've forgotten about it. So people might grumble and say the F word when they get your letter. After they deal with it, 2 months later, they've forgotten about it. There's too much that's happened in their life mentally since then. It's just completely water under the bridge. You see, this is a great qualifier here. This is what stops you doing it. If you don't have a reasonable level of stability, you don't have a reasonable level of service or better. Did you hear me use the word reasonable, not brilliant? Reasonable level of service or better, your clients are reasonably happy or better, you can do this. Every one of you in this room right now, if you fit that criteria, you can do this. I want you to take this message back with you, because the people that I have worked with and the principals I have worked with that have decided to, okay, Darren, I'm still scared, but I'm going to step out, 15, 20% extra. Depending on where it is in Australia, in Perth, 20% is about the norm. On the East Coast, might be about 10, 15%. Adelaide, we can do 15%. But it happens, and it happens every time. We see regular, consistent patterns. Very quick question. This is really, really good, this room, because we've got people from every part of Australasia here and, of course, the planet. So my question to you guys, people from Perth, people from Darwin, people from New South Wales, what's the management fee for? What does it cover? What's it supposed to cover? Property management, someone says? What's it supposed to cover? You see, I haven't got time to get your feedback, but if I promise you, I could sit a Perth person in this corner and a Brisbane person in this corner, and you'd have it out. Well, in Perth, we charge management fee and letting fee, and we charge an ingoing inspection report fee or a PCR fee as well, plus internet marketing as well. We'll charge a final inspection fee. And the other corner says, well, what's the management fee for? Here's my message to you. It's whatever you want it to be. There's no rule. There is no rule book you go to that the management fee is for this, and this. The rule book is the mindsets and the mind boundaries that we have. Okay, let's get started. Now, for the rest of the session, I've got to share with you 20 fees. So can you please excuse if I'm going a bit fast? Any questions that you have, you're welcome to approach me afterwards and talk to me further. Firstly, now I don't want to talk about the average management fee out there, but the all-inclusive management fee. Is anyone here doing an all-in-one fee? Hands up. All right, not very common. I do like this fee. The variations we've seen across Australia, in Melbourne, from 9.9% to 14.5% all-inclusive, which means all fees are rolled into one, maybe one or two other fees tacked on. But everything is included in that one management fee. In Sydney, I've heard of management fees up to 11% there. In Adelaide, 14.5 to 16.5%. I've done 16.5% very successfully in Adelaide. Now, one thing we need to understand, that for example, in Adelaide, the rack rate letting fee is 2.2 weeks rent. 2.2 weeks rent is equal to 4.2%. That's nearly half the yearly management fee. So when you start converting all the other fees into percentages, they all add up. And in Perth, for example, on a typical fee structure there, we could show people in a typical year they could go well over 19, 20%. Therefore, 18.5% looks like a bargain. Or in Sydney, it might get up to 13% in a typical year. Therefore, 11% might look like a bargain. It comes down to how you sell it. I can't spend much more time on it than that. But we have seen a couple of offices with some interesting imagination and variation of 14.5% plus a letting fee, for example. That was one I saw in Perth. Some benefits, it's easy to set and forget. If you got, for example, the REST system and you plug in your percentage, it's set and forget. You don't have the problem. You might say, well, we got all these fees. Well, that's good and well. Are your property managers making sure that they charge everyone? Have you got systems in place to make sure that everything's being charged? I've seen offices where we've come in, given some advice, and we've changed the fee charging systems and put in accountability. Suddenly, the fee income jumps up just by 10% alone because now the property managers are held accountable. And we're hearing regular stuff like, oh, sorry, boss, we were too busy to charge the letting fee this month. Oh, sorry, I forgot. Oh, the landlord was just a little bit upset last month, so we gave him a free letting fee of $700. When principals are remotely detached from their rent roll, can you see how this stuff is happening? It's costing a lot of money when they choose not to have right accountability systems in place. Easy to understand. It's simple and predictable. It's easy to show a property investor, instead of paying all these fees here, we just roll it up into one predictable fee. Whatever the rent is, you know exactly what the fee is going to be. So it's really simple and predictable. For income maximisation, you don't need people like me to teach you. Because all you've got to do is make sure the rent's maximised. Is that easy? That's all you have to do, is make sure that all the rents are maximised to where they should be, in line with market conditions. However, one of the pitfalls is, if you're going to do this, make sure that the management agreement is for a minimum of 12 months. If you do a 9-month or a 6-month management, then you're going to lose out. All right? So minimum 12 months. But please do your research on the devalue that this will do to your rent roll multiplier, because you're now missing ancillary fees, which is all part of the health of your rent roll multiplier. It will devalue it. You need to speak to some experts about what effect it will do. I think at the end of the day, the dollars still come out well ahead, but you need to do the math, talk to some experts. Next, letting fees. We see consistently 1.1 weeks to 2 weeks letting fee being charged. Can I just state, every now and then we come across an agency that's doing a letting fee but no reletting fee. You charge a letting fee for every new tenant. You okay with that one? And every now and then I come across one where it's a full letting fee for a 12-month lease, but half a letting fee for a 6-month lease. Don't worry about that stuff. You charge a full letting fee for a full tenancy. The best we've seen in a marketplace that does 2.2 weeks letting fee, where all the competitors, and it's a good regional strong town in WA, one agent out of, say, 7 or 8, one agent says we do 3.3 weeks rent letting fee. So when I was doing my business health check with them, I asked them, well, surely you're not getting business. They said, well, what do you mean, Darren? They always give me this response, what do you mean? What do you mean, Darren? I said, well, 3.3 weeks letting, we just justify our fee and we get it. All right, I learned a lesson there. That's a lot. Northern Territory, however, does things a little bit differently. Alice Springs and Darwin, and I'm not sure whether it's still the case, but a lot of agents in the past have been charging a letting fee every January or once a year in, year out, whether there's turnover or not. Northern Territory, you never know if you never go. Internet marketing fees. Now, we have seen charges ranging from nothing, zero, not charging anything at letting time for internet marketing, right up to $55, $99, $149. We did $149, right up to $220 per letting. We saw that one in Perth. It's an easy one to justify, guys, with the benefit of what you'll get on several different website platforms and marketing a property for rent as opposed to advertising in the newspaper. Can you see how to sell that one? Is a newspaper a lot more costly, a lot less effective? That's how you justify it to potential landlords, but a very good one to get. Property condition report or the ingoing inspection fee. I've only really seen WA doing this. However, I did an Adelaide fee update seminar some weeks ago, and I showed this particular fee to the crowd, thinking, hey, you want to see what you guys in WA do? I mean, that's the place where everything happens when it comes to income per property. And I had a young lady who hasn't got much experience, went back to her rent roll and started charging this straight away. And she called me up excited 2 or 3 weeks later, Darren, I've just signed up 4 landlords and I've charged an ingoing inspection fee. You know what her problem is? She's never been in the job long enough to know you shouldn't be doing that. Mindset. This is all a mindset. She could justify it. No doubt she had a really good quality inspection to show with great photos, maybe an ingoing inspection video on top of that. Todd will talk about that tomorrow. Landlords go, wow, she believes she's worth it, she can justify it, she gets it. They charge on top of the letting fee. I've had some agencies that charge it for the very first ingoing inspection, but I've seen agents that charge it for every ingoing inspection. It's made no difference in response from what we've seen. Up to $165 to $200, $220 per inspection we've seen, but that's mainly in WA. That's the norm in WA. Lease renewals. 50% of the letting fee for a lease renewal is normal. So if the letting fee is 2.2 weeks rent, then it's normal for the lease renewal to be half of that. If the letting fee is 1.1 weeks rent, then it's normal for the lease renewal to be half a week's rent plus GST. The only place that I generally see that hasn't got this is WA. So this is where we're getting a lot of our work at the moment and helping agents get off the $44, $88 up to 1 week. So that's a big jump for some of them, but boy, once we do it, it really does add to that profit margin very quickly. We're talking 1 week's rent. Just add it on, $300 to $400 extra per property per year. A lot of cases at 10, 15, 20% extra. That's where we're doubling the profit margin very quickly. We've got some people that think, okay, well, we sign up a lease renewal for 12 months, we'll charge a different fee from half that. Just don't worry about it. Just a lease renewal fee for renewing it. It works either way. Routine inspections. Now, very interesting across the East Coast to the West Coast, different attitudes again. Most East Coast agents charge nothing, zero, and they're struggling. I had a conversation just a few days ago with an agent that called me from Brisbane, Darren. We're doing 4 of these inspections a year. I'm finding it difficult. I want to outsource it. Can you give me an advice with that? We've got to find a solution here. And he said, but we can't afford it. And that's right, because you're not charging any fees. But I have seen agents, for example, in the Brisbane area, successfully charge this fee. But I'm challenging you guys. You look at how much time it takes to do a routine inspection, from booking it, the paperwork, the travel, the time there, the follow-up if things aren't satisfactory, reporting things to the owner. It can be quite a lot of time. And what we're seeing out there is SA charges are common up to $33. We find about a third of agents are charging it there. A lot more agents are serious. Everyone in WA is charging it there. Again, well done, guys. Up to $88 we're seeing per inspection. I spoke to a gentleman yesterday, $100, and they're getting it very easy. Now, monthly statement or admin fees. Your monthly fees, you with me? Postage and petties is what some people call them too. And we're seeing a vanilla amount everywhere of about $5.50, but we are seeing some low as $3.50, up to $7.15, and some up to $11. And they're getting that quite easily in a market that's charging $5.50. I've got one person that came to some of my training that we did at the Peak Performance Seminar last October in Adelaide. That guy went away and immediately put his monthly fees up to $22 per property per month. He didn't want to really touch the other fees. That's where he got his double profit margin out of that one. And he's a happy chappy because he hardly lost any business. I don't think he lost anything, but he's very, very happy. So that seminar was very worthwhile for him and that ticket price that he paid. When you're talking 300 to 400 properties, can you see how that's worth it? Remember, that's pure profit. Your expense base is already in place. You're not giving away 80% to the staff and supporting the local economy. 100% to the profit margin. This is where this stuff adds up. Refrain from using the word postage and petties. In this day and age where we're now going more and more electronic, you start using the word postage and petties. Out of those two words, what are people going to start questioning more and more? Postage. Change your wording to, it could be monthly statement fee, monthly admin fee. And the way you justify it, look, Mr. Smith, in a month we've got phone calls, we've got faxes, we've got postage, we've got all these different costs. Instead of being lawyers and charging out everything to the cent and putting a bill out to you, which can be different every month, we just do a straight whatever the fee is. And this is what we do. Makes sense, doesn't it? You see how I justified that? Remember, if you believe you're worth it, if you know how to justify it, you'll get it. So you've got to know how to justify it. That's the key. Financial year statement fees. This is the amalgamation of all the 12 monthly statements that have been sent out in one big report. Most agents charge nothing because you look at it from the point of view that you just press a button, it spits out, you put it in the post, not much work, right? That's not the point. Your clients don't care how much time it takes you to do it. They really don't care if it takes 5 minutes or 3 hours. They don't give a rip. What's in it for them? Well, the benefit in it for them, what would it cost them if they didn't get that statement? It would cost them a minimum of an hour of their accountant's time. How much would the average accountant charge? Starting at $165 at least, maybe $200. You see the benefit or the saving that you're giving landlords? This is how you justify it. So we are seeing agents charging from $25 to $55 per statement. I'm working with an agent right now in Adelaide that they already had a fee of $25. We're moving them up to $55. But the common mistake again is not considering the cost saving to the landlord. You're just thinking, how long did it take us to press a button? And if you really want to look at the cost of pressing that button, how much have you invested in those computer resources? And is that free? No. So even from that point of view, you can justify that. You will have a few clients that call you up and say, I don't want the statement anymore. It's only a few, but everyone else will pay. And boy, it's a lovely fee come July. It really props up the fee income. Tribunal or court attendance. We see fees being charged from anywhere from $36, $40, $50, $55, all up to $110. Plus, if there's any application fees that the tribunal or court's going to charge you as well. But we are seeing hourly rates. I want to talk about hourly rates now. And I'm surprised at the amount of agents on their management agreements that have fees like $55 an hour for tribunal. I can't work that one out. I really can't. Let's look at that because I was doing some fee maximisation research on a regional area in Queensland, about 2 hours out of Rockhampton, and we were doing some secret shopper. They sent us this by email, the agent, and it was good. They included the tradespeople in the area, and look at the fees that they're charging. So we've got a cleaning service, $33, mowing service, $55, and a property maintenance, $44. And you're worth how much? $55 an hour? I honestly think that professionals that are managing hundreds of thousands of dollars of worth of somebody's investment, and if you look at the total real estate value of your whole portfolio, some of you guys will be talking 100 million. I don't know. You're getting my point here? You're worth more than the lawnmower man. And with my computer at home, if I want to get in a computer geek, the average computer geek out there is about $110, $120. Who can agree with that? So, using on a scale of comparison, where do you place you? And I think you're over and above the computer geek with your responsibilities. So let's be serious about our hourly rates if that's the way we're going to charge. Insurance claims. A big portion of agents charge nothing. But I know for a case, I mean, how much work is involved with insurance claims, guys? A lot. Do you think you can justify with some conviction that you could be charging a fee for that? Some are charging $55, $66, $110 per claim. But I'm saying avoid hourly rates. And I even recommend avoid hourly rates at the tribunal too. Just charge a one-off fee. Because if you start getting into charging hourly rates, are you sure that your property managers are calculating it out properly and even charging it? You run the risk of it not being charged. So keep it simple. You might lose on some, you might win on others. But just make sure you look at your fee. What's it going to be? What can you justify and do it? Repairs and maintenance fee. Boy, oh boy. Kiwis in the room. Hands up, please. We got a few. Well done. You guys are kings when it comes to repairs and maintenance fee. I'm seeing 8.5%, 10%. of repairs and maintenance. Again, the question from the Australians is, what's the management fee for? Think on that one. I did come across an agent in Adelaide that charges this, and I asked the question, how do you go with this? How do you go in justifying it? Well, what do you mean, Darren? And they justify it because a lot of agents, because they're not charging it, they're not doing the repairs and maintenance. And Mr. Landlord, have you ever seen old and tired rental properties when you're doing open inspections and looking to buy a property? Well, they're the agents that aren't charging repairs and maintenance. Because it's an absolute vital part of our income and we need to maximise your asset value of your property, we make sure it's done, and we're only going to charge an extra 10% on top of the bill. You might cap it at $50 or something, but that's how you justify it. Now, disbursement fee, this is where you're paying accounts, maintenance accounts, repairs accounts, water bills. For every bill that you pay on the landlord's behalf, you might charge a flat fee instead of a percentage. We're seeing $2.50 per payout, whatever that bill is, no matter what it is, charging a disbursement fee. The bond vacate fee. This is a fee what we charge when the tenant moves out the property. Most agents I see across Australia, except for our WA people, most don't charge anything. Is that because there's not much work involved when a tenant moves out? Is that why you've done nothing? Anyone? There's not much work really, is there? I mean, every time, and you only have to say to a tenant, you've got to leave the property clean. And as long as you put that checklist in there, everybody gets out that checklist and examines it in detail, and they know they want to get a good reference when they move out. So that place is spotless and immaculate, and you're just tick, 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 good, clean at the final inspection every time. Is that your experience? So why aren't we charging for it? Now, it was my experience. I was feeling very lucky if I had a really good final inspection that day. More often than not, there's complications. The tenant has to come back and do things, chase things down, organise cleaners, carpet cleaners. For crying out loud, Northern Territory people here, hands up please. My goodness me. Their legislation there, I am convinced the Residential Tenancies Act in Northern Territory is written by disgruntled government tenants. I reckon they wrote it, all right? And one of the rules is, when a tenant surrenders the property, come in, give back the keys, they've got to do the final inspection. If the final inspection isn't right, get cleaners, carpet cleaners, gardeners, all the cavalry in to do the work, get the invoices back and serve a form on the tenant, I believe all within 7 days. Otherwise, the agent has to refund all the bond back. So come January, December time, these guys are beside themselves because everything is just vacating, and that's their number one priority. Boy, oh boy, there should be some charges in there for that sort of thing. So you're seeing how my justification is starting to come out here? All right, you've got to know how to justify these fees. Common to WA, but some agents in South Australia, I used to charge $33. And I don't think that was enough. That was about 10 years ago. But I got it like that in a marketplace that charged nothing. In fact, over time, my competitors started to wake up to themselves, and what did they do? We had other agents increasing their fees because they could see that we were getting them. And so the discounting cycle actually reversed. Tenant database fee, charged at letting time, and it charges you to be checking the 2 national tenancy databases. Now, who's using 2 databases here? Hands up. Now, this one's easy. Speaking to the landlord, Mr. Smith, if you come over with us, we cover 2 national tenancy databases. That covers all of Australia, anyone coming in, and we've got access to over 6 million tenant default records. That means that if we've got someone coming in their logs, we're going to find them. You know the agents down the road? Well, their boss, they only have one or nothing of the databases because the boss thinks it's too expensive and a waste of time. So you see how I've just turned that expense into a point of difference. Plus, Mr. Smith, it's only going to cost X amount of dollars to do the check. Please be careful and check with your Consumer Affairs in your local state of their attitude to this fee. Some of these people do not want to see anything other than the direct cost of what it costs you to access these databases. So please be aware of that. Certainly that's the case in WA. But we're seeing anywhere from $6 to $22 per letting to be checking the databases. And please avoid charging per check if you can. I like to charge per letting, not so much per check. Outside of normal duties, this is more of a de-incentive. It's charged as a flat fee or hourly rate. Have you ever had landlords wanting you to renovate the property? You see, one of the things that Gene Bennett from Florida, Gene the lean, mean fee machine, taught us, and the words that we have to say is, the answer is yes, and the fee will be. And yes, Mr. Smith, we're happy to oversee the renovation of the property, and the fee will be. Do you think that might help you? You think some of your landlords might back off, maybe organise it with their brother or something like that. This is an outside of duties fee. So it could also be meeting valuers or loss adjusters at properties, stuff like that, where they want you to supervise the appointment. That's where the outside of duties fee comes into use. What about landlords who want to meet you on the Saturday or Sunday afternoon? They're flying from interstate to do a routine inspection. Special landlord payouts, landlords that want to be paid outside of the monthly cycle. Who has those? Ring up, they've got to pay their mortgage. This is the fee for them. We're seeing $15 to $30 for a special payment. Now, tenancy agreement prep fees, very common to New South Wales. We don't see much of it outside of New South Wales. This is a cost for the agent to prepare the tenancy agreement. So what's the letting fee for? Well, again, our New South Wales people have proved that you can charge something if you can justify it. We're seeing $35 to $55 is common for preparing the tenancy agreement at letting time. Video and photography fees. So tomorrow, Todd is going to be talking about using video in property management. And certainly with your written inspection and your photos, you're doing your ingoing and outgoing, adding a video on top of that is going to give you wow factor in the listing appointment because your competitors down the road aren't going to be doing it. And why not also charge a small fee, an add-on if they want that. You're going to get the impressed value and you're likely to get your fee as well. Also, if it's photos, you need to provide good quality photos. Make sure your team are trained on that if you're going to charge for it. But in WA, we see a lot of people charging for property photos or at least getting a professional photographer in to do the work. Now, rent increase fee. It's charged when a rent increase is affected. If you increase the rent by $10 a week, how much is that in a year? $520? Well, it's saying to the landlord for the $520 extra, we charge a fee of 10% of that. So in that case there, that's a $52 fee. Remember, justifying it. Yes, I know, Mr. Smith, other agents don't charge that fee, but we also know a lot of other agents aren't maximising the rent because when we get the files over, transferred from those other agents where the landlord's not happy, and we open up the files, the rent's like 10 or 20% less. With us, it's part of our income. Therefore, we're going to make sure that we're always watching and making sure that rent's maximised. And as you can see, $52 is an absolute bargain compared to 10 or 20% under market rate. See how I justified that? Now, here's a couple of agents. This is a WA example where this particular guy, these are his fees on the left-hand side, what he was charging before, and this is what he started charging after. Now, out of 120 to 140 landlords that they approached, they lost 2 clients. That's very normal that I see. That sort of loss is very normal. And this particular guy here, did you know how much he increased his income by? You know, before I said 20%, this guy, his whole mindset changed towards property management from that time on. He increased his total fee income by 39%. That means he grew his rent roll by nearly 40% without adding on an extra property. Amazing stuff. This one here, another one in Adelaide that we did, we started off at $92 per property per month. That's what we measured out at before we started doing the work. We increased the management fee from 8.8%, which was rack rate, up to 9.9% because they knew they were worth it and they could justify it. That's what they wanted to do. We doubled the letting fee, added a lease renewal fee, and we also increased the routine inspection fee, piddly amount, and then the income per property per month, total fees divided by property numbers every month, month by month, that's what it came out at. At the end of that, at the bottom, the total average was 21.7%. That's how much extra fee income we earned through the process, pure profit. Now remember, what was the average profit margin of the typical department that we see? How much is it? 20%? In this case, if his was 20%, what did he just do? Doubled his profit margin without doubling the numbers, without doubling the workload and the growth and the staff and all those extra problems that come with increasing your staff. And look at this. We got less work now because we used the opportunity to sack one landlord with 2 properties and one landlord decided to self-manage. Very typically the results that we see. And both these guys were scared about losing their clients, just like everybody in this room. It's very normal. Now, have you kept up with this okay? Have you got something out of it? Because I'm going to give you the 3 keys that you have to do now, that you have to have in place to make this work. If you do or you choose not to have these 3 keys, you're not going to do it. However, to do it, these are the 3 things. After my years and years and years of doing this and working with client after client after client, I study. Why did this work again? Why did this work? Are the stats on track? Is everything on track? Everything's predictable. And it's simply this. 1, You need to have a reasonable level of service or better. Not brilliant. But you can't be bleeding. You can't be losing properties through poor service or a landlord having 4 property managers in the same year. That's unstable. But if we haven't got that, reasonable level or better, you're ready. But there's two other things that we've got to have in place. Firstly, your mindset. You need to believe that you're worth it and you know that you can do this. Because at this point, if you don't believe, no, we're not worth this, you can't do it. It's mindset stuff. But if at this point you've got a spark of, hey, I could do 2 or 3 of those fees, and I'm not expecting you to go and do all 20. I'm just giving you a smorgasbord. What 2 or 3 could you do? And if you believe you can do it, the next thing is, really important, you've got to be motivated. Because I've seen people, they're very stable, more than stable. I saw a rent roll in WA with 500 quality properties. It was smick. The landlords were just so happy. The team environment was to die for. I mean, it was just so good. And I did my analysis and I came to them and said, look, I believe we can do $315,000 extra fee income and this is how we're going to do it. I worked it all out so they could see it. And he believed me, which was great because I arm wrestle people all the time on this. They just don't believe me. Some people won't even return my calls because I think I'm lying to them. But they believe me. But they said, Darren, just wait because we have other things that we need to do at the moment. And I said, no, you're really hot right now. No, you got to do this. If you're ready, let's just do it. No, Darren, we understand. We know if we put it on the shelf, it's got the result of calling off. That is not going to happen here. Give us a call in 8 weeks. Okay, 8 weeks, give them a call. How are you going? Oh, Darren, this and this and this and this is happening. Look, give us a call back in 6 months' time. And I can tell you, in that 6 months, that place felt like a pack of cards. Even if they called me now and begged me to come in, I can't because number one now, they've lost it, okay? So if you've got all 3 there and tick those 3 boxes, you can do this.
We hope you enjoyed this session recorded live at the Leading Property Managers of Australia Annual Forum. And for a detailed, up-to-date ebook on the 20 fees charged across Australia, please go to darrenhunter.com. And also you'll find some further information on fee maximisation training and resources. All the best.